is allocated where it says it's going to be allocated.
So in other words, like each one of the, what I'll say, the funding programs or the funding, the people that fund into this program, they have their own direct link as far as where they're specialized in. So for example, if Entergy was one of the contributors, they would be more focused on like, is it a 100 amp service, 200 amp service, you know, how old is the wiring, things like that, or what kind of receptacles or outlets you use. Is that how it goes, or?
A little bit, but more importantly is if you're receiving a grant, through us, we refer you to other granting agencies, and we also have our own grants. Our own grant can basically make any necessary home improvement. So any home improvement that needs to be done. So I can't, if you don't like the color of your walls and want your walls painted a different color, I can't do that.
Right.
But if your walls are peeling, we can do that, although that's a small scope of work. We're looking at roof repairs, window replacements, electrical repairs.
Yeah. Much more structural in nature, more important in nature is what you're doing.
Right, but in terms of Community Environmental Center, they can only assist in funding energy efficiency repairs. So such as insulation, window replacement, boiler and hot water heater replacement, but they have specific things that they need to meet in order to fund work in your home.
Now let's say I'm someone who's trying to take advantage of the program. And I buy a house, an investment property, you know, 5 years ago, and let's say I'm having a problem with the tenants. And I come into you, Lynn and Karen, and I say, listen, you know what, I'm having a hard time, I can't make the roles meet here. I need new windows and I need a new roof. And then as soon as you get finished with the grant and I apply and I'm accepted and everything happens, and then all of a sudden a month later I go, you know what, I got a new roof, I got new windows, basically the house is now really well set, I'm going to sell it and put it on the market, get my money and get out of here. Can I do that?
No. The goal of the program, as I said, and also as then the goal of the agency, is to help people keep or find and keep their homes.
Right.
So we're not trying to help someone sell their home, although it is possible to sell your home once you do this, but then we would receive the funds back.
Right.
Basically what we do is we secure the funds through a note mortgage on the house. This acts as a lien, although it decreases over the number of years. So if you depending upon the money that you receive, it's 2, 5, or 10 years that you have this note and mortgage on your house.
Right.
That means if you are selling your home, when you go to sell, if it's within that time period, a portion of the funds need to be repaid. So basically...
So in other words, it's basically on a sliding scale. So let's say the bigger the number, the higher the amount of money that was expended on a certain house, you would then say, like for example, if it was up to, give me a number, let's say 25,
over 10,000.
Over 10,000.
Over 10,000,
so
it's 10 years.
Then it's 10 years. So anything like if it's 2,000, it could be between 2 and 5. And the whole idea was that if they tried to sell the house within a year, then certain money then gets paid back into the program, because you could see that landlord or that person is really just using it for just the profit entity, and they really could care less about the house or the continuation of staying in the house.
Right.
The state wants to preserve its interest, but people do sell for legitimate reasons, and then it would just be paid like the proceeds out of the proceeds, like any other mortgage on the house.
Sure. When you go back to the state, so in other words, is this run by the state? Is it run by the county? Is it run by private entities? Is there a mix to this? Is there one that's really the lead agency on this?
The Department of Housing and Community Renewal has a grant that we administer, and also the New York State Affordable Housing Corporation. Both of those are administered by the state. The Department of Housing and Community Renewal grant is actually federal funds. And then we are actually the ones administering it. More specifically, Lynn is the one administering it.
Right, and we're a not-for-profit.
Yeah.
And you're the not-for-profit, exactly. So your company is not really, you're a not-for-profit. It's not like you're trying to make money off this thing. This is really, and we'll get back to it, it's where you're trying to raise the standard of living for people that let's say in the Westchester community area, or are we Peekskill, Cortland, Yorktown, I think?
Peekskill, Cortland, Yorktown for this program.
For this program.
Yes.
And then we do have one grant that we have limited funds at the time that does cover Westchester County, but primarily Peekskill, Cortland, and Yorktown.
And like you said, it's a consortium of really state, local, let's say even municipal? Are there some municipalities that are involved in this too, or is it just strictly more on the state, federal, and the county level, because their sources of funding are much bigger in scope?
Right. The people that fund the home improvement program specifically, or home improvement like programs. So the county has their program that addresses lead issues in the home, and that's to deal with health problems regarding lead.
Right.
Those are administered by either county, state, federal government funds, or you can also receive private funds. So I think New York State Energy Resource Development Association, I think is the name of it, is what Community Environmental Center allocates, and that's private funds and state funds mixed together.
Gotcha. So. Give me the examples. Do you have any examples of where someone came in and you realized there was like a genuine need, or maybe where maybe the person said, look, I just need help on one window, and you found out that there was bigger? Do you have any examples of like that to let our viewers know about this?
Well, my favorite example of a client is a family in Yorktown. Actually, it was an older couple, retired couple. She is totally disabled and bedridden, and they live in a raised ranch, and she was completely housebound because there was no way to get a wheelchair up and down the stairs given the way the house is configured. So the only way that she could leave was to be carried out. Sorry. And we provided a grant together with Westchester County, which administers with another nonprofit a grant that addresses accessibility issues. So it was a consortium of actually 3 different agencies working on this house and combining funds to make this house accessible. And what we were able to do is to rebuild the deck so that there was a wheelchair lift, so that the woman could actually, leave the house, and then they redid the walk around the house, and it's the sort of thing that just completely changes a person's life.
Sure.
And another unintended benefit of this is they have a grandson who is also confined to a wheelchair, and he could never visit his grandmother.
Wow.
He had to stay downstairs. So now the 2 of them have
so
access
it's
to the
really
house.
You're trying to even not only the standard of living, but it's also a quality of life issue in the sense that you really, you're bringing, and I don't want to say respectability, but they're able to do things on their own again, which maybe they were confined at one point.
Yeah, I mean, this was an unusual one, but it's absolutely my favorite. I mean, more often it's window replacement, roof replacement. We have a lot of old houses in Peekskill, and a lot of people with seriously deteriorated roofs and furnace replacement.
So it's not even, I mean, in the sense that of a ramp, let's say, or a chairlift. So it's not really structural in nature. It can be even, like in this case, an outside the house almost type of entity to a degree. Yeah. In Peekskill, even Peekskill, but even there's a growing where green initiatives, are you handcuffed with that type of thing, or do you try to go along those lines too, or do you have any, that's not your focus, you don't have to worry about that? Or the other side of the question is, like in Peekskill, because there's so much, there's the historic preservation of the downtown, areas, certain areas, does that almost also limit you, or you're really not involved with that?
Well, I guess I'll answer the first question. I'll let Lynn answer the second question.
Okay.
With the first question, in terms of energy efficiency and green initiatives, we really focus on energy efficiency at this point. And many of our contractors are green. Community Environmental Center is one of the leading nonprofits, or first nonprofits, in environmental work and green initiatives.
Oh, wow.
So when we work with them, they're based out in Long Island City. That's basically their goal.
Right.
Also, what we find is that a lot of people that are having difficulty maintaining their home are also having difficulty paying their bills.
Right.
And so, yes, we want to make it more energy efficient and lower their bills.
Sure.
So in that respect, and I don't think of it as handcuffs, I think actually as a good that the state is now focusing on this type of initiative.
Sure, because if you look at it in the long run, you say to yourself, if you're replacing, let's say, the insulation, so you're raising the R factor,
Right.
it's less gas and less oil to heat that home or whatever the case. So in the sense you're saving oil, if it's costing, or if it's if there are 3,000 gallons a year for X house and now it's down to 1,500, well, you just say 1,500 gallons would have gone, right up into the air and the ozone and stuff like that. So it does help out right there. Lynn, you're part of the question?
Oh, okay. In terms of historic districts, in terms of the local historic district, we would